So can you see my screen? Yes, anybody? So now we will start our lecture. So as I started yesterday, and I was told that unit number 1 to 4 and 6 have completed, and we need to start with unit number 5, that is design of IC engine components. And for today's attendance, I didn't prepare any sheet or something like that. So I suggest you to take my cell phone number 9175 899 766, and you just send your roll number and name on this WhatsApp number for today's attendance as well as yesterday's attendance. So these are the contents of the course: introduction to selection of material for IC engine components. So here what we are going to do when we start component design. So component wise we will be discussing the how the materials are selected for the given applications. Then design of cylinder head. So you can see in the figure that there is a cylinder block, you can see, and inside the cylinder there is a piston, and at the top of the cylinder there is a cylinder head, and that accommodates the inlet port from which air and fuel mixture come inside, and its flow is regulated by intake valve, which is whose movement is controlled by cam and camshaft. Similarly, in case of petrol engine, you will see spark plug. If it is a diesel engine, in that case, the fuel injector will be there. Again, it also accommodates the exhaust port, which is and the flow of the flue gases is controlled by exhaust valve, which is controlled by valve spring arrangement or camshaft. The next components are construction of cylinder liners. So here you can see the cylinder liners and water jacket. So it is a part of cylinder. Sometimes whenever heavy engine is there, then we need to use the cylinder liners. Then design of piston and piston piece. So inside the cylinder you can see there is a piston, and that has reciprocating motion, and with the help of this piston pin, the piston is connected to the connecting rod or connecting shaft. Connecting rod it is often called as. Then piston rings are there. So here at the top of the piston you can see the piston rings and its application, why it is placed. All the contents will be discussed, and how the number of piston rings are selected for given internal combustion engine or for a given piston will be discussed. Then design of connecting rod, how the forces are acting on this connecting rod at crankshaft as well as from the piston side. And by using these forces, we will estimate the dimensions of the crankshaft as well as crank pin. Here you can see the crank pin, and for design of crankshaft and crank pin, there is only theoretical treatment and numerical will not be asked. But for remaining components, that is from bullet 2 to bullet 4, the theory as well as numerical treatment will be there. Then the first question arises that what is an internal combustion engine? So first of all, I would like to know whether this course was there for you, internal combustion engine. If yes, then quickly I will cover the introductory part and we can directly start with the design principles. So, can anybody unmute himself and tell me whether you studied this particular course, that is design of IC engine component or not. Okay, so you studied this course, so thank you. So we'll start with, quickly we will take a review and we will go ahead. So an internal combustion engine is an engine in which combustion of fuel such as petrol in case of petrol engine and diesel in case of diesel engine takes place inside the engine cylinder. And generally the IC engines are classified into two types. One is petrol engine in which the fuel used is petrol. In that engine, the spark plug is used for the ignition of the fuel, so it is also called as spark ignition engine or SI engine. Similarly, if the fuel used is diesel, then the engine is called as CI engine or diesel engine, as due to compression, the temperature of the uh, diesel is reached to self combustion and the ignition starts. So here in the figure 1 you can see that the working of the petrol engine. There are 4 stroke. First, suction stroke in which piston moves from top dead center to bottom dead center. In second, compression stroke where the piston moves from bottom dead center to top dead center. And at the end of the compression stroke, the power stroke starts. So that is denoted by number 3. And once the power stroke overs, there is an expansion stroke. So this is the basic principle of petrol engine. Similarly, in case of diesel engine, you can see the first stroke is suction stroke or intake, where the air is taken inside the cylinder due to suction pressure, and then there is a compression, and during the compression the temperature of the air increased, and at the end of the compression stroke the fuel, that is diesel, very fine particles are injected inside the cylinder, and the temperature is sorry, the pressure is sufficient that the self ignition starts. And then once the ignition starts, the internal pressure increases and it exerts a pressure on the top of the piston, and the expansion stroke starts, and during which the flue gases are also come out from the cylinder. So basically the difference is that in case of petrol engine there is a spark plug, and in case of diesel engine there is a fuel injector. Again, the engines can also be classified into two-stroke engines and four-stroke engine. So two-stroke engine is an engine which required two strokes of the piston or one revolution of the crankshaft to complete one cycle. So here in the figure you can see the uh, through animation you can see the function of two-stroke engine. And if you look at the construction, it is light in weight and have a compact construction. And traditionally or long back, it was widely used in scooters, motorcycles, and three-wheelers. But nowadays, rarely two-stroke engines are used due to higher fuel consumption and efficiency is quite low. As different strokes are combined, so the efficiency goes down. Similarly, in case of four-stroke engine, it is an engine which requires four strokes of the piston or two revolutions of the crankshaft to complete one cycle. And on other side, uh, or I would say, if we compare the four-stroke engine with two-stroke engine, the fuel consumption is quite low and the efficiency is also very high. So that's why these engines nowadays become very popular and widely used in automobiles. So if you take an example of four-stroke petrol engine, then it is widely used in cars. And if you take an example of four-stroke diesel engines, then it is used in heavy-duty applications such as buses, trucks, locomotives, and power generator sets. So here the point that is to be highlighted is that nowadays in most of the applications, four-stroke engines are preferred and rarely you will see two-stroke engines. And the two main reasons are the fuel consumption and efficiency. Then we will see the design principle of engine component. We are here, I'm not saying the design of engine components. I'm saying design principle of engine components. And why I'm saying that? Because here or in this particular unit, we are going to understand the basic design principle of the engine components, how the design of the cylinder and other components of the internal combustion engine is done, and we are not going to consider all the factors that may affect the design of the engine, because in many universities or institutes the design of IC engine it has a different is a different course. So here we will just get an idea how different design principles are used for designing IC engine components. Again, in that specifically, we are emphasizing only on the following components: cylinder, cylinder head, construction of cylinder liners, piston, piston pins, piston rings, connecting rod, crankshaft, and crank pin. We will be discussing the design principles for these components only. And if you want to find out the number of components in the internal combustion engine, then that count will be more than 100, and in a single unit practically it is impossible to design all the components or to learn design principles of all the components. So the syllabus is restricted by the SPPU, and we will be discussing the design principles of only these components. Then now slowly we are entering into the design. So first we will start with the cylinder and cylinder liners. So from the figure which is on the left side, you can see that the typical construction or layout of a cylinder. And from the view, you can easily understand that it is a structural member, and it is the portion of the engine in which the power is developed, because during the suction stroke the air fuel mixture come inside, and after compression the combustion starts. So the actual combustion and power generation takes place inside the cylinder. Then it provides a combustion chamber where the burning and expansion of the gas takes place, that just we discussed. Then for small engines operating at low speed, cylinder block is casted in one piece. Take an example of a two-wheeler engine or motorcycle engine that are of very small size also. It is casted in a single piece and directly deployed into the applications. And in case of large engine, uh, along with the cylinder, there additional unit is used, that is cylinder liner. So here you can see the cylinder liner, and outside of that you can see a water jacket. And also the figure which is on the right side, you can see the typical cylinder liners those are used. Now the question arises, on the cylinder, why cylinder liners are used. So I'm going to answer that question after a few slides, because it is important question in which application we should use a single block cylinder, and in which application we should go with the cylinder liner, and how the cylinder liners is useful, or how it reduces the either initial cost or operating cost, that we will be discussing after few slides. Then next is the primary function of the cylinders are to retain the working fluid, such as the mixture of air and petrol and diesel. So I will just check whether I'm still online or not, because yesterday I lost the internet connection and uh, I just started speaking and you were not there. Okay, so this is the very important thing here. We can see that the air fuel mixture that should be retained inside the cylinder, and it should not get leaked either from the different connections or the any other way. And second thing is that the piston is reciprocating inside the cylinder. So that reciprocating motion should be carried out properly, and the function of the cylinder is to guide the piston so that smooth reciprocating uh, motion takes place. Again, we need to consider different parameters while designing the cylinders. So for that, first very important parameter is that the temperature, because due to continuous operation of the engine and combustion inside the cylinder, temperature increases to 1800 Kelvin to 2400 Kelvin, and that is quite high. And we know that if the temperature of the material increases, generally the strength of the material decreases. So we need to consider what is the operating temperature, and based on that temperature we need to select appropriate material. Then second thing is that the material or the cylinder should be able to withstand at high working pressure, because during the power stroke, that is when combustion starts inside, it is kind of explosion and tremendous pressure developed inside the cylinder, and your cylinder should be capable to take that very high pressure. The third thing is the cylinder after its manufacturing, it should be tested to high explosive pressure, approximately 3 to 8 times the maximum compressive pressure. Why? Because during the explosion the pressure goes very high, and we need to verify what will happen in the actual practice, otherwise there is a chance of accident. So testing generally is carried out at very high pressure in order to increase the safety level of the cylinder and ultimately the internal combustion engine. Then the cylinder should be able to transfer heat efficiently without thermal distortion. So continuous heat generation is there, so that heat needs to be dissipated continuously and at very high rate to the atmosphere. And for that we need to make some arrangement for the cooling. And on figure 1 on right top and figure 2 on right bottom, you could have easily guessed we are talking about which cooling arrangement. So generally, based on the cooling arrangement, the engines are classified into two parts. One is air-cooled engine, and generally they are used in light-duty application, for example, motorcycles or two-wheelers. And if the size of the engine is large and multi-cylinder engines are there, then we generally go for water-cooled engine, where either water is used for cooling, or nowadays coolants are also available that are used for cooling. And generally, in case of air cooled, air takes the heat from the engine and dissipate to the atmosphere. And in case of water, water takes the heat of the engine and it is dissipated in the radiator. And in case of small cylinder, as I told you, scooters, motorcycles, air-cooled engines are used, and it is generally provided with the fins. So here you can see the extended portion. So they are called as fins, and these fins are designed in such a way that the heat transfer through the engine will be very high. Again, in case of small engine, the separate cylinder liner is not required, as we discussed in previous slide. And in case of large engine, just to discuss, we use water cooled, water jackets, separate frame, liner, water jackets are used. So typical construction is there in case of large size cylinders, especially when water cooling is used. And also with certain design modification, the liner can be easily replaced. But in case of large cylinder, generally liners are less. Now, cylinder liner. So as we discussed, for large engines, a separate cylinder liner is used. Then they are more economical as they can be easily replaced after being worn out. It is not necessary to replace the complete assembly of the cylinder, jacket and the frame. So what happens when piston, when it continuously reciprocates, so generally it makes the contact with the internal surface of the cylinder. And because of that, there is a continuous wear. And after certain period of time, we need to replace that liner. And if the cylinder is manufactured as a single unit, and if there is a continuous wear, then we need to replace the whole cylinder. So if we have separate cylinder liner, then just replace that cylinder liner and you can use the remaining component, that is cylinder, jacket and frame, as it is. So it will reduce or it will minimize the operating cost. So that is the major advantage of the cylinder liner. Again, during the design, what we can do, only for the cylinder liner, we can use better grade material, which is of good strength and quality. And for remaining all parts of the cylinder assembly, we can use the ordinary cast iron or the uh, we can say the material having least price. So from design point of view also you can reduce the cost of material, as we are going to use only the better grade material only for the cylinder liners, because only for that cylinder liner continuous there is a rubbing, reciprocating movement of the piston, so rubbing action is there and also combustion takes place inside that. So again, from design point of view, we can save the material cost, and from operating cost point of view, we can reduce the cost of uh, replacement of that liner only. And we can save a lot of money. Again, use of cylinder liner allows for longitudinal expansion. So there are basically two types of cylinder liners. First one is dry liner, you can see in figure A, and second type is wet liner that you can see in the figure B. So if you look at figure A and B, you can easily differentiate how dry liners and wet liners are design, or what is the basic difference between them. So here there are water jackets in both wet and dry liner, but there is no direct connection of that water jacket with the cylinder liner. So you can look at the pointer, this is the cylinder liner, and there is indirect contact with the water jacket. Whereas in case of wet liner, there is a direct contact between the water jacket and the cylinder liner. So this is the basic difference between the dry liner and wet liner. Also, as a design engineer, you can have your own design strategy either to go with the dry liner or wet liner, and you can complete that design. Then very important thing is that before designing cylinder or cylinder liner, what are the essential properties of the material or desirable property, or how to select the material for the cylinder and cylinder? That is very big and very critical question. So some of the answers I already given. Now again we will discuss once again. The material should be strong enough to withstand high gas pressure during the combustion of fuel. So this is the first desirable property of that material. Second, The material should be strong enough to withstand thermal stresses. As we know, the cylinders are operate at very high temperature because of the continuous combustion. So the material should have an ability to take high thermal stresses and give the same performance just like operating normal of room temperature we can say. Then heat transfer again, that is important thing. Then the material should be corrosion resistance. So two things are very important here. First, there is a continuous reciprocating motion of the piston. So wear is continuously taking place, so that wear rate should be very low, so that you will get the long life of the cylinder. Second thing is that during the combustion, whatever flue gases are developing, that may get reacted with the cylinder material or cylinder head material as well. So that is also considered while selecting the material, so that there will not be any kind of chemical reaction. Then which material we should use for cylinders and cylinder liners? So for ordinary cylinders, gray cast iron with homogeneous and close grain structure is used, and generally with the centrifugal casting method they are casted. For heavy duty applications, nickel cast iron and nickel chromium cast iron are often used. Or in some of the cases, cast steel and aluminum alloys are used for cylinder. So you may ask questions, sir, gray cast iron, nickel chromium. So these are very general material. So actually these materials are used in the actual application. So my answer is yes. But you may not come to know its material composition, because that is the secret of that industry. So they will not disclose the how the composition is prepared and the cylinders are prepared. So only what you may be interested, don't give the material composition, just give the material properties, and by using those material properties you can easily design the cylinder and cylinder liners. Now this is all theoretical part that we discussed. So I will just, before going ahead, quickly I will take a review and we will go ahead, because afterwards we are slowly entering into the design part. So we discussed the contents, the functioning of SI engine and CI engine. Then we started with two-stroke and four-stroke engine and why four-stroke engines are widely used. Then we discuss, in this chapter we are going to discuss only design principles of engine components, and these are the selected components taken for the study. Then the construction of cylinder and cylinder liners. We saw when cylinder liners are used, what are their advantages and disadvantages, primary function of the cylinder, parameters that we need to consider while designing the cylinders, then how engines are classified based on arrangement of cooling system. In that we saw air cooled engines and water cooled engines. Then we started with how cylinder liners saves the design cost, especially the material cost and the operating cost as well. Again, we discussed dry liners, wet liners, then the desirable properties of material of cylinder and cylinder liner we discussed, and different materials that are often used for the cylinders and cylinder liners are discussed. Now, slowly we are entering into the design part of the cylinder. So what is important? In the figure you can see that cylinder of basic structure of the cylinder. So designing means what we generally we do. we consider different parameters, we consider the operating conditions, and we find out the dimensions of the cylinder. So as here we are going to design the cylinder, so important thing is that the bore, that is internal diameter of the cylinder, that is first important dimensions. Second thing is that stroke, that is the distance between the top dead center and bottom dead center, that is the stroke or stroke length. It is also called as stroke length. And along with that, the total length, that is stroke length plus there is some clearance above the top dead center. So that length plus there is some distance below the bottom dead center. So stroke length plus clearance on both sides. So that will be your total length. And third part is the thickness of the cylinder wall. So these are the important dimensions that we need to calculate, and while calculate, we need to consider different assumptions, considerations, applications. Now we will start with it. So the inner diameter of the cylinder is called as bore. So bore or inner diameter, both will be same here. The main dimensions of the cylinder are calculated by using the following equation, where this is mechanical efficiency, which is equal to brake power or power developed at the crankshaft, divided by indicated power or power developed inside the engine. So generally the combustion takes place inside the cylinder. So that power is called as indicated power, and because of that expansion, the power is transmitted to the piston, to connecting rod, and to the crankshaft. So whatever power developed inside the cylinder, that is called as indicated power, and the power which is available at the crankshaft has a lower value, and it is called as brake power. So the efficiency is brake power upon indicated power. So generally from the properties of the fuel, you can calculate the indicated power. Again, if we know the efficiency of that engine, either it is petrol or diesel engine, if we know these two values, then also we can find out the brake power as well with the help of rope brake dynamometer or any other mechanism. So based on the given values, generally what we do, if brake power and efficiency is available, we calculate the indicated power. If other two values are known, we can estimate the remaining values. So here we will be calculating the indicated power, and here you can see the if the indicated power is estimated in the previous slide. Here, yeah, here if you get the indicated power, then by using the relation of that indicated power, you can find out the cross sectional area of the cylinder, and this is the formula used for calculating that, where IP is indicated power, PM is indicated mean effective pressure. So we know that during suction stroke, pressure is different, compression, combustion, and expansion. In all the stroke, the pressure varies over the time. So the mean value is estimated, and that value is called as mean effective pressure or indicated mean effective pressure, which is expressed in megapascal. So which is denoted by PM. Then L is the stroke, that is the distance between top dead center and bottom dead center. A is the area of the cylinder or cross sectional area of the cylinder, denoted by A. Then N is number of working strokes per minute, and which is equal to N for two stroke engine, and N is the small n is equal to capital N by 2 for four stroke engine, where capital N is engine speed. So if you know the speed of the engine, you can calculate the number of working strokes per minute. So if all values are known to you, you can easily calculate the cross-sectional area. See, in previous slide and this slide, what we are doing using the fundamental relationship between the different parameters, we are slowly moving towards the estimation of the various dimensions. So area is one of the important dimensions. So from this formula, you can calculate the cross-sectional area, and that is expressed in mm square generally. Then once you get the cross-sectional area, we know that for cylinder, the formula for the cross-sectional area is pi d square upon 4, where d is the diameter of the bore and which is expressed in millimeters. Now once you get the diameter, so one of the dimension will be available, as we were interested in diameter, stroke length, total length or length of the cylinder, and thickness. So here you will be getting the diameter of the cylinder, or it is also called as bore. Now there is a empirical formula that is generally used for estimating other dimensions. So here you can see uh, the stroke length. So for that, generally the L by D ratio for the cylinder is usually assumed to be 1.25 to 2. In most of the cases, it is taken as 1.5. So if you know the diameter of the cylinder or bore, then just multiply that value by 1.5 and you will get stroke length. Or this is another formula in terms of meter. And once you get the length of the cylinder, sorry, stroke length of the cylinder, you can easily calculate the length of the cylinder. Again, there is a empirical formula, and for that we consider the clearance on both sides of the stick. That is, above the top dead center there is a clearance, and below the bottom dead center there is a clearance, and that is generally taken as 15% of stroke length. So if you know the stroke length, just multiplied it by 1.15 and you will get the length of the cylinder. So this is how you can estimate the length of the cylinder. So again, I will just briefly take a review. So first, if we know the brake power, that is measured by using rope brake dynamometer, and if you know the efficiency of the engine, you can calculate the indicated power. Once you get the indicated power, there is a relationship between indicated power and cross-sectional area of the cylinder. So if you know all other values, you can calculate the cross-sectional area of the cylinder, and we know that cross-sectional area, if it is known, the formula is pi by 4 d square. You can calculate the diameter d, and once you get the diameter of the cylinder or bore by using this empirical relation, L small l is equal to 1.5 d, you can calculate the stroke length. Again, in that stroke length, increase the length by 15%, you will get length of the cylinder. So this is how three dimensions of the cylinders are estimated. So if you have any quick question, please ask or we will